So I'm going to talk briefly about kind of a little unknown feature of governed data within Data Governance Edition. It's a pretty easy concept to understand, but just to be sure, I'm going to walk through the behavior of what's going to happen here when you collect security for governed resources. So here what you're looking at is the manager. I'm logged in as a data governance administrator, and I'm looking at the deviations view for a folder that I have underneath a managed path on one of my managed hosts called the sister stuff folder. So I've been using this example as I've been kind of walking through the features of data governance. So on this folder, both of my sisters, Jen and Pam, have access. But underneath that folder, you can see that there's some deviated security. And by deviated security, the access control list, for whatever reason, is different than the parent. So on the sister stuff folder down below, you can see that the domain local Matt Sisters group has access. And within the domain local Matt Sisters group, there's a global group. Within the global group, both of my sisters are in it. So both of my sisters are on the parent folder, and both of them have access via their membership in groups. Underneath that parent folder are these two subfolders, Stuff for Jen, which you can see that the domain local Matt Sisters groups is no longer on that folder. It's my sister Jennifer explicitly, and the same on this folder, Stuff for Pam. Jen doesn't have access, but Pam does. Pam is explicitly ACLed on this resource. And then even further, I have another folder called Stuff for Both, but this one inherits the security, right? So you can see sister stuff and Stuff for Both. It has the exact same folder permission, so it inherits. Within that folder, though, there's another subfolder called Hide for Matthew. And clicking on that folder, you can see that my account, MMuse, has been explicitly denied permissions on this folder. So that's where they keep information about what they want to buy me for my birthday, things like that, right? So that is a very small example of deviations within a file system, right? Now, how does this apply to governed data? Well, what we're going to do is I'm going to actually govern the sister stuff share. So I'm going to go to managed hosts, and I am going to drill into the resource browser, and I'm going to find the sister stuff share. Here it is here. And below it's showing you the share permissions. You can also see the folder permissions right there. So I'm going to place this resource under governance. Place resource under governance, govern resources. And now if I go to govern data view, I should see both the sister stuff share and the underlying folder for the share. So again, the default behavior, when you govern a folder, the folder becomes governed. If you govern a share, DGE will govern both the share and the underlying folder. And then further to that, if you govern a DFS link, DGE will govern the DFS link plus the share that the link represents plus the underlying folder. So the default behavior there is to govern two items when you govern a share. If you go to the object browser and I refresh my data under governance, I see 4 items in here now. 1 item for the folder, NTFS folder, and 1 item for the share. So this is great. Now, back to the conversation about security deviations. What if I'm interested not only in the root governed resource, but what if I'm interested in having information about all of the deviated children of those resources stored into the Identity Manager database? By having them stored in Identity Manager, that allows me capabilities of writing some interesting company policies or doing some different types of attestations regarding the deviations. So in order to get that information into the One Identity Manager database, there's a little trick that you can do. So that's what I'm going to show right now. And the way you do that is I'm opening up the Data Governance Edition service.exe config file. So a lot of the settings that can be configured in DGE, you'll find them in this file. This file is located in the Data Governance Service directory. So wherever you have deployed your data governance service, you'll find this file there. There's a setting here called collectPOI.includeDeviations. By default, the value is false. So what we're going to do is we're going to set that value to true, and then we're going to see what the behavior is once the recollection of security for governed resources takes place. So I'm going to change this to true, and I'm going to go ahead and save that. So normally what would happen under the covers is DGE on a schedule, and the schedule is highly configurable, will actually go out and collect the most recent security for all of your governed resources. So instead of waiting for that schedule to trigger, I'm actually going to force the collection manually using PowerShell. So of course DGE has a lot of PowerShell capabilities. Here's one of the PowerShell commands you can use: trigger-q data under governance collection. You pass in the managed host ID. So here I'm passing in the managed host ID for the host where the sister stuff folder lives. And I'm just going to go ahead and trigger that. There we go. So now what's happening, because I've set include deviations to be true, upon the collection of security for my root governed resources, I've basically instructed DGE not just to grab the security from that root, but to recursively look within that folder to look for anywhere a security deviation takes place. So just like we saw in the manager, we have stuff for Jen, stuff for Pam, and hide for Matthew. These are deviated children of that root governed resource. So now that I've successfully triggered the collection of security, let's go ahead and check the object browser and give that a refresh. So now, in addition to the pre-existing governed resources that we had, the two sister stuff governed resources, the folder and the share, now we also have three additional items. We have stuff for Pam, stuff for Jen, and hide for Matthew. Again, three distinct children of that root governed resource that have deviated security from the parent. So DGE will collect the security, will store the security. With that there, you then have the capability of authoring company policies or different types of attestations or workflows based on the inclusion of those deviated security resources within the QAMDUG or governed resource table. So that's it. It's just a quick little thing to show you how you can get your deviated security resources within the governed resource table. Of course, in addition to being able to see those deviated security resources within the object browser in the QAMDUG table, you can go into the manager and see them there in the governed data view. So here we are in governed data, and now we have additional items in there: stuff for Pam, stuff for Jen, and the hide for Matthew folder. And with the new feature where DGE will look at security to determine who may be a perceived donor, with these deviated resources in here, you of course can find out who may be the perceived donor of those deviated resources as well. So there's a lot now that you can do that you have deviated resources showing up in the QAMDUG table.